What's up, military millionaires? I'm David Pere, and today I want to talk to you about what you should do with your TSP after exiting the military. I get asked all the time what you should do with the thrift savings plan after exiting the military, and it just more and more frequently. Now, while my default answer is nothing, leave it alone and benefit from the compound interest and knowing that your future is secure, I understand that there are a lot of different alternatives that could prove to be worth your time. So in this video, I want to explain what some of these options are and why it may or may not be beneficial for you to roll your thrift savings plan into these investment vessels. Now, keep in mind that I'm not a licensed financial advisor. I'm just somebody who's done a lot of research and also these are just my opinions, right? So be sure you do your own homework and you come to your own conclusions as well. On the other hand, keep in mind that I will not receive a commission of any type from you rolling your TSP over, but many people do. So always remember to ask yourself what filter somebody is using when they're selling you on the idea of rolling your TSP into a specific asset class, because they just might be incentivized by a commission payout to recommend it to you, and you just, you need to know that. So should you roll your TSP into, whatever, here we go, right? So when you move funds out of your thrift savings plan and into another asset class, it is referred to as rolling your TSP over, kind of slang. I'm sure it's referred to a bunch of stuff, right? So should you roll your TSP into a Roth IRA? And it seems only natural that the first type of account you might consider rolling in your TSP into is a Roth IRA. After all, the Roth TSP and the Roth IRA are essentially the same asset class. Now, the main difference are the contribution limits, as are much smaller with the civilian Roth IRA than on the thrift savings plan, roughly like $6,000 instead of $19,500, which is quite significant. That being said, the reason that I'm not a fan of this idea is twofold, right? The first is that the thrift savings plan has extremely low fees. It's a tough to beat program, and the fees associated with rolling your TSP into a Roth IRA will hurt your long-term return greatly over time, because when you roll, there's always fees that come associated with, that act of rolling your TSP over. So just know that that will take a hit to what you have. Now, ultimately, the main reason people do this is because somebody is selling a new Roth IRA product, and that person will probably receive a commission for doing so, or because you prefer to have all your money in one IRA account, which I understand, because having, that money consolidated feels good, but paying the fees to roll it over just for that reason is a poor financial decision if you do apples to apples, right? If you have to pay a 10% fee, then, long term, that's hurting you. So that's my thoughts on the IRA. I personally would just keep my TSP and then open a Roth IRA as well, and I have several friends who do that. Now, should you roll your TSP into a self-directed IRA? A self-directed IRA is an individual retirement account that allows you to invest in all sorts of asset classes. And I have another video on this. Check that out if you want more information. You can use the SDIRA to purchase art, precious metals, private lending, equipment, and many other things, including real estate, which is, why a lot of people actually enjoy rolling this stuff into the SDIRA. Now, real estate is the most common reason that I see people wanting to open a self-directed IRA. And I'd be honest, I can see the appeal here. While all of your profits would need to be rolled back into the self-directed IRA, there's still an allure of investing in real estate through the SDIRA, through private loans, or through buying property yourself. That being said, one of the reasons that I like the thrift savings plan is that it's a diversification from my real estate investments. I don't believe real estate is the only way to build wealth, and I think it would be foolish to believe that, right? Like, I personally prefer to have my money in multiple asset classes, and the thrift savings plan is a good diversification from real estate. So personally, if I ever do end up rolling my TSP into anything, it would most likely be a self-directed IRA, because I want to have control over those funds. Now, that being said, I don't have any intention of rolling it over just yet, for a couple of reasons, right? The first, I don't want to pay any unnecessary fee to roll my self-directed IRA, because that hurts your long-term gains, right? If I had to pay $6,000 to roll it over, that's $6,000 I'm no longer earning interest in. Now, I like having diversification in my portfolio, as I mentioned. Also, you can take a loan personally from the thrift savings plan, not from a self-directed IRA. Now, I don't condone that, but that could come in handy if you need the money for something briefly, but you don't want to pay the taxes and fees and other penalties and all that other crap on it. So the self-directed IRA is an alluring investment strategy, but you need to be very savvy investor before you mess with this. So you need to know how you plan to use the self-directed IRA before you even think about rolling into, your TSP into one. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. Also, I don't know that I recommend rolling it over just to invest in the same asset class. Keep that diversification. Should you roll it into a whole life insurance policy, the infinite banking concept? Whole life insurance has become a popular investment strategy over the last few years. Now, I use quotation marks there because I would consider it more of a saving strategy than an investment strategy. That's not how people are teaching it right now. Look, if you want to understand more about my thoughts on whole life insurance, I wrote an article about it. There's a video about it as well. Suffice it to say that there are a lot of people talking about how great these are, and a lot of those people get paid a large commission to sell it. So find someone who's not getting paid to sell it if you want to have that conversation. Whole life insurance can be a great strategy if you have the money to overfund it, which the thrift savings plan actually might. If you have enough in there, it could be that metric to overfund. And then, if you do that right off the bat and you have it set up properly, you might have some pretty good benefits with it. Now, there are mediocre insurance reps out there, so you need to make sure that you do your homework and you ensure you're setting it up the right way if you're going to use this investment strategy. So ultimately, this would probably be the second place that I would roll my thrift savings plan, but only if it aligned with my long-term goals and I was able to set it up properly. Now, I don't foresee that happening, and I would caution you to really think about this before doing it. Not to say that whole life is a bad investment decision or savings decision, whatever, but to say that the thrift savings plan is a great investment strategy, so why give it up for a saving strategy? All right, should you roll your TSP into property? And obviously, I mean, just close it out and buy property. So I see many people talking about closing their TSP completely to invest in real estate. Now, I love real estate as much as the next guy, if not more, but I don't like the idea of paying exorbitant taxes and fees for closing down my thrift savings plan just to buy real estate. Now, I think you would be much better off leaving the money alone, saving it in another stack of cash or whatever to invest in real estate, and keeping the thrift savings plan as another option, right? So maybe, just maybe, you should just leave it in the thrift savings plan. All right, now, should you roll the thrift savings plan into the thrift savings plan? All right, maybe. Look, hear me out. Maybe, just maybe, you should just leave it in the thrift savings plan to grow. So I view the TSP as my super duper emergency fund. So when the pandemic hit in early 2020, I was able to look at my thrift savings account balance and know that if I had to pull it out, even after fees, or pull a loan from it or whatever, I could cover 100% of the vacancy rate in all of my rentals for 18 months if I had to. Now, to me, the security of knowing that I can weather some really large storms because of my TSP is worth leaving it untouched instead of investing it somewhere else and then not being able to use that money. Now, unless I absolutely have to, I don't plan to mess with it. Now, also, that little nest egg is going to continue to grow to over $1 million by the time I'm 60 without any effort from me at all, completely passive. Now, hopefully, I'll never need the money, and even when I reach retirement age, and I'll be able to give it to my kids or use it for whatever else I want, but it's better to be safe than sorry, and so I plan to leave my TSP alone to just compound interest and let the compound interest work its magic, right? So what should you do with your TSP after the military? That depends. I mean, that depends on your long-term goals. It depends on your level of risk aversion. It depends on your investment strategy going forward. It depends on what asset class fits your personality, right? So make sure that you understand the ramifications of any taxes or fees or penalties that you'll have to pay when you utilize your TSP funds for anything other than the thrift savings plan. Also, I recommend that you cross-check the advice that you're getting from these, with unbiased sources and people who aren't getting paid based on what you do with the money, right? Because nobody's going to look after your interests more than you will, and you need to always remember that. I'm not saying that they're giving you bad advice, but just know that even if their intentions are good, if they're highly incentivized to kind of nudge you this direction instead of this direction, they will, because that's human nature, right? You're obviously going to be inclined to believe in the vessel that gets you more of a return. Not saying that it's intentional or shady. That's just how things work, right? So I hope this helped answer some of your questions as far as what I think are some good and bad options for the thrift savings plan, what your options are, and what I would do. Personally, I'm just going to let my TSP ride and continue to grow, and it'll just continue to be my super emergency fund that is also the diversification from my real estate. And yes, for those of you asking, I am putting a lot of money in the TSP still. The last 3 or 4 months I was putting 60% of my base pay into it. Currently it's down to 30% because I'm putting the other 30% into real estate and kind of split that. But yeah, I absolutely believe in the thrift savings plan, and I think it's great. So definitely max that out if you can. Have a great day. Oh, I'm so bad at this. I don't even think you can see my pillow up there that says subscribe. Subscribe if you got something out of this. Like the video. I should probably do a better job of asking that. Have a great day.